You're listening to a Benstown and McVeigh Media Podcast Network production. Run It Again is an inside look at the players, the coaches, and the business of sports with former NFL star and broadcaster Ron Pitts.
And 2 minutes later, I was back in the same Oklahoma drill that I got the concussion from.
And the mastermind behind the greatest show on turf, Coach Mike Martz.
And we want to force him into a vanilla defense and go to work.
Run It Again is a hard-hitting, no BS podcast that connects you directly to the source. This is Run It Again.
Okay, Mr. Martz, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday morning?
I'm doing great, Ron. Shoot, we had some great games over the weekend.
Yeah, we did. And let's just do this. Let's work in reverse since it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that Raider game, the Raider-Ravens game, Monday night. And that was about as wild of a game as I have ever seen in my life. And I actually turned the game off on what was supposed to be the final touchdown there in the corner of the end zone. And my son called me about 5 minutes later. He said, "Are you watching this game?" I said, "I was. It's over. Ravens blew it thanks to Jackson's 2 fumbles and some other things."
Yeah.
He said, "No, Dad, it's not over. Turn it on." I said, "What?" And I turned it back on to see the last 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, minute of that. And wow, have you ever seen anything like that?
That's why you got to play every play. And you keep telling your players that too. You know, just they're down there on the half-yard line with first and goal. And it looks like it's a sure deal that's over with. And, you know, it was a great stand by that defense, really. They tried to sneak it in. They stuff him. And then the right tackle jumps offside. It's about his 4th penalty, the rookie right tackle that they had. And then he gets the ball tipped. And, you know, listen to Greasy, the announcer, he's after Carr because it's such a bad pass. But, you know, that defensive end looped and came through and was right in his face. He had to get rid of it quickly. And it was a good enough ball. He should have caught it. It was a little bit high, and then it gets tipped and it gets picked. So you just got to play every play to the very end because you'll never know.
What is Derek Carr thinking when he threw that interception? And as a coach, what would you say to him at that moment?
I'm not sure which interception you're talking about. At the very end there?
The one at the very end, yeah.
Well, ball got tipped. It went right off his fingertips and got deflected into the defender's hands. And, you know, he had some heat on it because there was an unblocked player coming right down the middle of right on him, you know. And so many times, Ron, people, when they watch TV, they see the receiver, they see the throw, but they don't really see what's happening to the quarterback. And as he threw it, I don't think he ever saw the ball go. The quarterback, Carr, I'm talking about, because he had to throw it much faster and much harder than he really wanted to. So he got some heat on it. He's just trying to get it out of there before he got hit. And of course the ball sailed on him a little bit, but it was catchable. I mean, it's not that hard of a catch, really. He should have had the ball, although it was a difficult catch. In the NFL, you make those catches.
Right. So in the end, the Raiders win the game, which kind of fit the NFL plan, I guess. I couldn't have had a better first game with attendance, major attendance, full attendance in the stadium than that one.
Well, it's great for them. You know, the season, the first time they've been able to play in front of a full crowd, and the town is still probably rocking this morning, you know, from that performance. And it's good for John. It was great for the organization to finally have a game like that after the last 4 years of struggling, you know, or last 3 years.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson, boy, he does some great things with his legs. We know that. We've seen that. He's a phenom in that area. But then last night we saw the flip side, which kind of drove me crazy with the
I watched him. They zoomed in on his face a lot. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. He just looked kind of nonchalant about everything. And it really bothered me because he just kind of shrugging his shoulders, just kind of laughing things off. And I didn't think he played well at all. I thought he played very poorly. I didn't think that they were really prepared to see that Raider team. You know, the first game of the season, they're playing a new defense that they hadn't seen yet. And I think the Raiders threw some curveballs on him that they weren't prepared for, but they didn't let him make those great plays that he's made in the past. And the defensive line put some real pressure on him. It was a wake-up call for Baltimore because I thought that they were not well prepared for this game structurally from, you know, what they saw. They had to adjust to it, and they struggled with it.
And they came into the game with a lot of injuries as well. 13 players on IR. They lost some notable guys like Marcus Peters, the corner, in practice. He had back-to-back season-ending injuries in practice a week ago. So, and then their lineman, he came back in, Tyree Phillips, he went out early, on the other side. So they had some issues.
Well, they'd lost 3 running backs, so
Yeah.
they've gotten down to a young man that they'd had on practice squad, and he played well enough. And they've signed some guys off the street here, good veterans, and they'll be fine. They'll make a go of it, but nonetheless, they were in position to win the game. They just didn't get it done.
Yeah. And penalties started to creep up there
They
late.
did.
That was an issue.
Yeah.
So, well, then now let's go back to the Thursday night game from last week, the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. You never bet on Tom Brady, or you never bet against Tom Brady.
Bet
right?
against him, yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of happy for the Cowboys. We talked about this. I really felt like the Cowboys had to win that game. I thought it would be, if they could win that game, it would be kind of getting over the hump, so to speak, for them. But they played well enough to where there's a lot of great things. Neither team played great defense against. Both teams had an excellent quarterback. There's a lot of passing yards there, and nobody ran the ball particularly well. So they're just trying to keep pace and a score-a-thon, so to speak. But I thought that the Cowboys look much better than they have in years past. And of course, Brady's Brady.
Brady's Brady, right?
Yeah.
So they got the win over the Cowboys, 31-29. I think the league really thought that was going to be one heck of an upset, and they were right. And that's how they set those games up, kind of like that, don't they?
Yeah, they had some great matchups, and that the fact that they played as well as they did is really encouraging for the Cowboys. They still have got some issues in the back end, as in the secondary. They got to get better play. They're not quite as good up front as they've been in the past, but they're good enough. But with Prescott, he's going to throw for 350 yards every week. That's the way it is. And another 400-yard game. He's a remarkable player.
Steelers and the Bills. I picked the Bills to handle this one, but the Steelers went up there and got them 23-16.
It's kind of an enigma. When you look at the numbers, the Bills didn't play too bad. They rushed for 117. The quarterback's rating, and there's yards and completions. On numbers, it looked like a pretty good day, but there's just a few plays. As you know, the block punt, Roethlisberger makes 2 or 3 just terrific plays. What they did to him, they just stormed the gates. They blitzed him continuously, and they just couldn't get to him. And he made some key throws at key moments that kept him in it and finally win the game. But the block punt was devastating.
Yeah. Miscues on special teams. Those will hurt you every time. Josh Allen threw the ball a lot. I noticed that with some other quarterbacks this week. A lot of 50 attempt games,
low yards,
games, with quarterbacks,
Well, the thing when you look at that, the biggest issue is going to be a protection issue. They're getting pressured a lot. They're not going to be a lot of balls down the field. You just can't hold it long enough, and I think that's what happened there. I think Pittsburgh plays so well on defense and put enough pressure on him, he just couldn't get the ball down the field.
The Panthers and the Jets, that was another kind of setup game. You got Sam Darnold coming back to play, right? Are playing his old team there. So, but the Panthers held on. I like Matt Rule as head coach.
I do too. I thought they were really well coached and prepared for that game. I was really excited for Sam Darnold, whose numbers were really good and solid in that game. He looked like a real solid player in the league. The Jets, they scored 2 touchdowns, and defensively they're much better than they've been in probably the last 5 years that I've seen them. They're on the mend there, and I think that Saleh is doing a great job there. Coach Saleh is doing good. I do think that Sam Darnold will continue to get better. The 1-2 punch with the running game and the passing game. I think Carolina is going to be a factor here as we come down the stretch of the year.
Hey, how good can this Zach Wilson kid be? His numbers on the day, 20 of 37, 258, 2 touchdowns, one interception. But what are your thoughts on him?
Well, you think about your first game in the NFL as a quarterback. I think anybody take those numbers. That's a pretty outstanding day. Yeah, those are great numbers, and I think he played very well. I think that it's a great pick for them. I think he's going to be an outstanding player. I really do.
In some games there weren't a 100-yard rusher every time for the winning team.
Right.
But I noticed in most of them, the team that won had a 100-yard rusher, and like McCaffrey, he had 98. And we're going to call that 100.
Yeah.
They were able to run the ball, but then you look at the Jets on the other side, their leading rusher had 24 yards, and that was Coleman. So there you go.
And that's hard when you have a young quarterback like that, when you're asking him to do everything. And that's what happened with Burrows last year in Cincinnati. When you don't have anything to back him up or to go to, you're telling him that he has to win the game. That's a tough duty. And I'll tell you, he responded exceptionally well. He really did a great job.
The Bengals got a win, much needed win, and good to see Joe Burrow back in there after the devastating injury last year. And he's got Jamar Chase. He's got a new receiver out there, a guy who he knows very well from LSU, and they look comfortable.
Nice combo. Yeah, they really did. And they're better in the offensive line, and they ran the ball well. And that's a good Minnesota team. I think it's a pretty good team. Cousins had a great day. They just couldn't get it done. But Burrow, that looked like a good team. They fixed some things in the offensive line. They're still leaky. They're still not as good. If they were really good in the offensive line, that's going to be a good football team. I think eventually they're going to be a factor this year. They'll be much better than they were last year, of course. But I think they'll probably be a 500 team with the arrow pointing up for that organization.
And again, to my point, another 100-yard rusher for the Bengals. Mixon, 29 carries, 127. And on the other side, the Vikings didn't have 100-yard rusher. Cook held to under 70 yards. He had 61 yards rushing on 20 carries.
But, when you have a runner like that, Ryan, it happened in the New Orleans game. You just play keep away. And it was the quarterback sitting on the other side. He's flipping the ball in his hand, waiting for his opportunity to get in the field, and he can't. You have those 7, 8, 9 minute drives, and you keep great players sitting on the other side while you dominate the clock and get points.
Yeah, possession football. Very underrated. Can do a lot of damage that way.
No question, especially against when you have great players at key position like quarterback or running back on the other team.
Yeah. 49ers, they got a win over the Lions. I thought Goff was going to bring him back there late, and that was mainly because of a botched onside kick on the 49ers part. The ball took one of those real nasty, dirty, choppy infield bounces on him, and you could see it coming. And that kind of led to the score looking a little better than the game actually was, I think.
But see, I just, there's only like 2% of chance that you get those kicks. But I think what happens too many times is we were really good at getting onside kicks, and I'll tell you why. We practiced the kicker. Our kicker, he hit at the top half of the ball, and on the third bounce, it kicked way up in the air. And it was a jump ball, and he was remarkable with it.
Who was that? Was that Wilkins?
Yeah, Wilkie.
Yeah.
Jeff Wilkins. Yeah.
Okay.
So Wilkie he'd hit that ball, and we got 2 of them in a row against New Orleans one year and a comeback. But you have to have a guy do that. And when you get all these goofy, you squib it and it rolls around. Those things are never good. You got to have a ball that does something that's real unexpected, like what happened the other day.
Yeah, Goff again. Now here's one of these high attempt games. 57 attempts. He was 38 of 57. 3 touchdowns a pick. But
good news and bad news. When they got way out in front of him, so they loosened up a little bit, and he started completing a lot of balls. Yeah. He started off very poorly in that game. He missed probably 2 or 3 throws. Didn't look very comfortable. Then he kind of got into a bit of a rhythm. But I text Danny. I know Danny Campbell pretty well. He played for us at Detroit. And I just told Danny, he's just changing the attitude. He's changing that culture up there, which they've needed now for a long, long time.
Right. Garoppolo in the mix. So even though Trey Lance is sitting behind him, yeah. And Lance did have a touchdown pass. So, good for the Rook there, I guess, or second-year player. So,
but Garoppolo played well enough to, he played exceptionally well. His numbers were outstanding, but I think, the secondary has always been a problem at Detroit. I don't care who's there. It always has been. I don't know why. It looks like, is it Swift, the running back? It looks like they found a runner of some magnitude that'll help them finally. But, Ron, the 2 things with Detroit that's hurt them for 20 or 30 years since Barry Sanders, they've never had a runner, and they've never had a good secondary, the back end. They've been good every place else, but those positions, and it's killed them.
Well, what are they going to do in San Francisco with the quarterback position? No. What's going to happen there?
Well, they'll grapple. They'll make the change. I mean, that's why they drafted him. I mean, it's going to happen. Yeah, it's put Garoppolo. You know, when that Super Bowl several years ago, they didn't let him play. They didn't let him throw much because they didn't trust him. And if you don't trust your quarterback, now they let him play here the other day against Detroit. Of course, you know, when I say that, I mean letting him get the ball down the field, right? But obviously, they don't think he's the right guy to win a Super Bowl with. So they've done this with Lance. When that happens, who knows? But I mean, it's just a question of time. It's going to happen.
Trey Lance, rookie. I said second-year player, rookie.
Yes.
So right. We'll see what happens with that one. They've been talking about Garoppolo being on the hot seat, though. We'll see. Texans over the Jaguars. I think Urban realizing the pro game's a little bit different and got a rookie quarterback, and they're going to have some growing pains.
But Tyrod Taylor, you know, you got two veteran coach, Lovie Smith. Now, of course, the head coach we talked about last week. Why did they hire him? He's an older guy that's been around the league. He can calm all these issues down, and with his presence, you know, he's got great leadership. And Lovie Smith, old-time head coach in the league, and of course in college football. And these are calming personalities that have answers to problems, and guys will look towards them in terms of leadership. And that program looked like it was solid. It didn't look like there's a lot of issues on the team. Of course, Taylor, the quarterback, had a terrific day. So that was surprising. Probably of all the games, I was more surprised about that than anything else. Who probably shouldn't have been because of the calming influence of those two coaches. Yeah,
Taylor, he did have a nice day. Just consistent, you know, completed 21 passes through 33, so he was solid in
There's
that
some
game.
Touchdowns. He did a great job in that game. He played better than I thought he was, and I may be wrong on him.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on Jacksonville. And moving on down the line, Seahawks going back to Indy. I was wrong on this one. I actually picked the Colts.
I did too, though, Ron. I did too. But you know what, Ron? Here's the deal. First game of the season, and you're coach, you're going to play the Seahawks. Right? What are you going to do? What is he going to do? The best deep ball thrower in the league has completed more deep.
Wilson, yeah.
Wouldn't you take that? Wouldn't you say we're just not going to let you do that?
That's right. Take away what they do best, and also the Seahawks are very good on the road. They bring the energy.
But you can't.
You let them do
talked
exactly
about this.
That's right.
Russell Wilson, he's going to throw the ball over the safeties. He's just going to do it.
That's right.
And if you don't let him do it, it's going to be a tough duty because they're not that good. Now, he had a great day. They let him get the ball down the field. If he doesn't get the ball down the field, tough duty. But I was disappointed. In how they held it. You know, they prepared for him. They gave him what they do best. They didn't take it away, which you have to do on defense, at least make the effort. And they didn't look real good on all. Now, Wentz was fine, but they didn't run the ball as well as I thought they'd run.
No, they didn't. They weren't able to go over 100 yards, even close. Taylor with 56 yards rushing on the day. So, but I was surprised that they let, and maybe they were more concerned with Metcalf, but they let Lockett have that day that we saw a lot last year, you know, where remember against Arizona, in Arizona, he lit them up, and they're just throwing, like you said, throwing these deep race routes, these deep crossing routes, and they had no answer for Lockett. You know, he had 4 catches for 100 yards.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The first thing when you're going to play Seattle, the one thing you have to do is just not let him throw the ball over 20 yards. He's just going to go and go and go until you stop him, you know. And they're really great. The teams that shut him down eventually, they made him hold the ball, and they took that away. They didn't let him get the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And after that, the first 5 games of the year last year, this is what he was doing. But they still are not as good personnel-wise. I mean, they've made some improvements, but they're still not as good in the offensive line and on defense as they should be to be a championship team.
You're right. They're going to get tested.
They will.
Definitely a lot.
I was just disappointed in the Colts and how they prepared for them and just the way they played.
Right. Arizona taking on the Titans, and that was a little bit of a surprise for me as well. They went back there and got the Titans, and they did it in pass rush fashion. Chandler Jones just really had a field day coming around the corner, and he really set the tone for this team in that vein.
You know, they made a statement there, that division, you know, it's our division. I was really impressed with them as a whole, as a football team. Of course, Murray had a great day, and I was really disappointed that they didn't rush the football. I'm talking about the Titans.
Yeah.
And of course, quarterback, he didn't look good at all. They confused him. He held the ball and held the ball. Tannehill held the ball. And Tannehill's deal is play action. He's not a guy's going to get back and go through a bunch of reads and get the ball checked down and move around, all that kind of stuff. That's not who he is. He makes his living on hard play action down the field and, scramble and all that kind of stuff and rush the ball. When you take those things away, and it goes back to what we just said, defensively, they says, no, we're not going to let you do this. And they take away the things that you do best, and it makes it hard for you. You got to change.
Kind of like Goff did with the Rams here. He made his living on play action. That's how that offense ran. Derrick Henry, to that point, he rushes for 58 yards. So you keep Derrick Henry under 100. You affect the quarterback. Now you get a guy running wild around the corner for you on defense, and you end up with a 38-13 win on the road, which is a nice way to start the season.
It's a great way to start the season.
Yeah. All right. This is the one that kind of surprised me a little bit, but it shouldn't, because we talked about this coach. We talked about what he would bring to this team. And this is a nice first start. And that's the Chargers taking on Washington. That's back in Washington. And I turn on the TV with about, I'd say maybe a little more than a quarter to go in the game. And it just looked like the Chargers were in complete control and around the whole field, offensively, defensively, everywhere. It just looked in sync. And Washington looked rattled to me. They looked like they were just disassembled.
Well, I watched that game closely because I'm a big fan of Herbert. He made some throws in that game that just are freak quarterbacks make. I mean, he made some unbelievable throws in that game. Now, his numbers weren't great, but I don't know if you saw this, but they were going in from about the 5-yard line or 6-yard line or so. And he got hit when he threw the ball, and they said it was a fumble. And the ball went into the end zone. Of course, it was recovered, so it was a touchback. But, and even in the booth, they questioned it. But my question would be, by definition, if the ball's going forward, it's a pass. Well, how does the ball travel into the end zone if it's not going forward? How could you rule that as an official, as a fumble? The ball goes into the end zone. The hand has to be going forward, right? It's just so crazy. Right. It just made no sense to me. I was so angry when I saw that. And they had this real long drive. They're going in to put the game away, and now they've got to, regroup again and go through it. And they did. That team played with they were very disciplined and tough, just like that new head coach. They played the way I kind of hoped and thought that they would play. They did a great job in that game. That's a big one to win on the road.
It is. And then for Washington, Ryan Fitzpatrick goes out. That's their calming force. So maybe to my point there, I answer my own question. That's why they looked a little up and down and in and out. And just,
but Heineke
I don't know.
He played pretty good. I thought he did a pretty good job. I wasn't displeased with his play. I just thought that the Chargers played exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we talk about, again, 100-yard rushers. Gibson, 90 yards rushing. So they were able to put something on the ground, but not enough. And it's going to be interesting to see what this Charger team does. And I do like the quarterback. Now.
They'll be a factor. You watch, they'll be a factor. He's such a freaky passer. They just don't come along like him very often. He has just incredible skills to put the ball wherever he wants, whenever he wants it. And what he sees and can react to, and then along with those skills, he is truly one of the more remarkable talents I've seen in the league in a long time.
Chiefs and the Browns, your old Brownies there. They make them go back to Kansas City. That's a nice opening day present, right?
Yeah, how about that, right?
Yeah. So you played the playoff game there, didn't go well. Now you're going back and give them a second chance to beat up on you. But, the 33-29, you didn't, not a blowout. And let's face it, it's going to be tough to go into Kansas City and beat Patrick Mahomes.
They had it though, Ron. They had it going. They had him beat. And the kid, as you know, from the 10-yard line or 11-yard line, for no reason, just bobbles a punt. And that's it. That's the game right there.
Yeah.
Mahomes has the one play. He's running to the side, and he throws it up like any other receiver down there wouldn't make this catch. And it was a ball by admission that was thrown way behind the receiver. The corner had him covered, had him blanketed, and he'll just does what he does. He adjusted with his quickness and speed, and a play that should have been no play becomes a 80-yard touchdown or whatever it was. I think he is the difference maker for that team. And as good as Mahomes is, without Hill, they're a totally different team. They really are.
Dolphins and Patriots played. Dolphins got that one there by one. We're going to jump over that game and go to this one because I kept thinking about you the whole time. The Saints and the Packers, and Jameis Winston looked like you'd gone there and talked to him. Pretty good. No,
it was fun just to watch him and listen to him. What they were working on, it was probably one of the most best jobs of coaching that I've seen in an opener. And they took the quarterback Rodgers from Green Bay in the first half, and they just said, "You're not playing today." They had all those 7 and 8 minute drives. So you get on, if you don't do something in 3 plays, you won't see the ball again until the next quarter. And that's what happened to him. Yeah. I don't know that the Packers had the ball more than 5 or 6 minutes in the first half. They dominated him. They couldn't get him off the field. They couldn't stop their running game. They rushed for 170 yards in the first 3 quarters, Yeah. So that combined with some real big plays in the passing game inside the 20-yard line. But Sean has always been the best in the league in red zone passing. They just do a remarkable job with it. So I thought they did a phenomenal job on both sides of the ball of shutting them down. And I think it just frustrated Rodgers. And I don't think felt like they weren't prepared to see what they saw. Defensively, they completely confused them. They made them completely out of sync. And it was a combination of a lot of things. Rodgers, to me, didn't look like he was excited about playing like you normally see him.
I noticed that. You caught that too, huh?
Yeah, but more importantly, they got out coached badly. So I think they can share that responsibility of the loss. It's just not all on Rodgers, and he didn't respond well at all. He did some stupid things trying to come back and throw those dumb picks that he did, but nonetheless, as a football team, he wasn't the Lone Ranger in terms of playing poorly.
Yeah, and LaFleur mentioned that he took the brunt of it, but there was definitely some of that going on. And Rodgers didn't look like he didn't look right. He looked like, dare I go here? He looked like a man who knew that there might be a trade coming and he wouldn't be there long. I hate to say that, but there's something
maybe so. But here's, I think when you're a quarterback, you go into a game, and they're showing you something on defense that your game plan is completely not prepared for. And you don't change, you don't do something to help it. That's frustrating. Yeah. And it's going to be you're going to be a all-day sucker for that unit. Right. And to me, that's what happened. They got shocked. They had no answer for it. And that's why I say the Saints just outcoached them. So I'm a quarterback in there, and they're doing all these different things, and we don't have an answer for it. That's not good.
Well, let's keep an eye on that situation up there in Green Bay, boy. That's a lot's going on, to say the least. And Winston, got to give him his due. Didn't throw a lot, 14 to 20, 148, modest numbers, but 5 touchdowns. He hit the mark when he had to.
They were very careful with him. They weren't asking him to do a lot. And I thought the game plan was perfect, and it worked out just the way he wanted. And at the end, they let him throw a deep ball, and he hit it right on the mark. And that's what he is. He's a terrific deep ball thrower. He really is. He needs to be more mobile in the pocket and move around a little bit. He gets caught, standing there sometimes. You can't do that. But nonetheless, he had a great day, and he's going to get better every week. He just is.
So the Broncos, they got the Giants. Giants still have a little bit of work to do. A nice win there for the Broncos. And the one I thought was interesting, the nightcap, so to speak, on Sunday night, the Rams and the Bears. I never felt like the Bears had a chance really in the game. I think they were trying to manage their way through it, even though they ran the ball.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Ron, you go back and look at the passes. How many passes did he have? 38, for like 110 yards or some dumb thing.
For Dalton. Yeah. 20, I mean, it's just 38.
I get so mad at them because they don't know what they want to do in offense, and they played good on defense. It looks like they don't know what they want to be on offense, and he will not throw. They got all the speed now on the outside, and they won't throw the. You buy a brand new Mercedes, you might as well get in and drive it. I mean, just throw the ball down the freaking field, buddy. You just don't be so careful. You're not. These guys on the other side of the ball, they're going to take their shots. Take your shots. Doggone it, take your shots. I almost threw something at the TV. Glad I didn't. Come on, man. You just get the ball down the field.
Well, see, that's your vertical offense, Ernie Zampese, Sid Gilman coming out in you. That's what that is.
But, when I watch it, I watch these guys as play callers, and I watch defensive coordinators and how they respond. It's fun for me. I like doing it. He's a scared play caller. He always has been.
Yeah, Matt Nagy. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. It's
too careful.
That way.
Yes,
and it was in the Rams. Honestly, I didn't think the Rams were spectacular. I thought they said, "Oh, okay, well, you're not going to do this, and we'll just take it." And then they started getting more and more opportunities later in the game. But early on there, I thought, well, this is the type of game Chicago can hang in here for a while and get something done. But it just to exactly what you're saying. It just looked like they were content keeping it close, getting on the plane and going home.
No question. Montgomery, that I think he surprised them.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
Because he ran, the yards he got were mostly after the first hit. He had an incredible day. They need to give him the red badge of courage. He was pretty incredible in that game. But here's something that I saw that really bothered me. I watch body language when I watch this stuff too. That's just from being a head coach, right? They score on a running play down there in the end zone early in the game. And when a running back scores and runs through a bunch of tackles like that, what do you usually see happen?
The whole team and the offensive line especially
come over. What the offensive line turn around, jog to the sideline.
That's a sign.
That's a bad, folks. That's bad, guys. Yep. I will tell you that is really bad. That's a bad indication to me. That's the kind of stuff that just drives me nuts.
Yep, I've seen that on teams, especially in college. You can tell, like you told me, the players will tell the athletic director if they don't like the head coach by their language on the field, their body language.
There's just something with that offensive line. I just don't think they're very tough. They played pretty good in that game, but doggone, this guy's running his butt off. He makes this Herculean effort to get in the end zone. And I look at these guys, and they're jogging off to the sideline for some reason. That was indicative. That's something there that's just not right.
Not right. No. Keep an eye on that one for sure, boy. That division all of a sudden got really weird. Not to jump back, but okay. So now Detroit, they're going to reload there with a new quarterback, and people say, forget Detroit. I don't know, because the Bears, after that performance and what we're talking about here, I'm not sure what they're going to be this year. Minnesota kind of finding their way, I think, a little bit. They're going to be solid, but I'm still not sure.
But they might be the best team in that division. Look at Green. Yeah. We'll find out. Green Bay. The Green Bay plays Detroit here this next week, so we'll find out.
Yeah. So that division, boy, that's going to be a strange one. It could be up for grabs. So
what I know, Ron, is when you have a good player like Tom Brady or whoever, Aaron Rodgers, you have a team that gets embarrassed. Now, they've won 13 games in the last 2 years or so. You get a good team that gets embarrassed that next week, you just don't want to play them.
That's rough. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So Matthew Stafford, efficient, 20-26. Looked like he had control of the offense, but with that kind of defense, it feels like it's set up again, Mike, for them to be the top dog in the NFC. Yeah, you're going to have to go and deal with the teams like the Buccaneers and Tom Brady and so on and so forth. But it just feels like all the pieces are in place, including the location and the stadium.
Could be. They're a real good team. And Stafford, I think, for an opening game like that with a new coach, and there's a bond there. They're alike. It was a good pick for them. It was a good matchup. I think the Rams have got a great chance of being in the Super Bowl, no question.
Yeah. So some good games on week one, a couple surprises, but overall, with the exception of the Monday night game with the Ravens and Raiders, it was about what I expected. Like I said, so not bad, and good to see the fans in the stadium again.
Yeah, it was. One of the things that I think is special about the opening day about this year was there were probably 3 or 4 games that looked to me like playoff games. It's just different feel for the opening of a season, starting right away with the Buccaneers and the Cowboys and finishing here last night with the Raiders in Baltimore. There's 4 or 5 games, big games that were fun to watch. It just had a different feel for the season. The level of football starting this season is much higher than I've ever seen. And I think a lot of that has to do with not having that 4th preseason game and having that extra bye week, getting your guys ready to go. I really do.
Yeah. In the Monday night game, I thought the Ravens came out defensively and really hit hard and were very aggressive. And they're like that anyway, in spite of the injuries. That Humphrey kid, number 44, the corner, they talk about who the best corners are in the NFL, and this guy here, I know Jalen Ramsey, obviously mentioned in that vein. I don't know that kid gets Humphrey gets the pub he should get.
No question.
He is really he's very good coverage wise, and he's very physical on the run game. And they had a shot there. He was covering Waller. And, Waller's a heck of a tight end. Guys at that size can get down the field and get steps on you quick. And I just watched his feet and watched the way he slid his feet and his body control and his foot transition. And dealing with tight ends as a corner can be tricky because they're moving a lot faster, sooner than you think. And now you've got to not only fight a little bit of their speed downfield, the long strides, but you got to fight their body position. So that's not an easy cover. People like to lap under the breast. Oh yeah, corner on a tight end. That's an easy one. No, it's not. It's not.
It isn't. No, you've got to, you have to play that just right, because you can't, just size and just the physical aspect of it's going to be difficult for a corner.
Yep.
But something they'll run about Baltimore defensively. I thought they played well all through the game. They kept storming the gates and they made it very difficult for the Raiders. And kudos to John Gruden, because when he made that touchdown throw, they brought 11, and the corner just drops the receiver going across, thinking that he just couldn't make the throw. But the Raiders up front now, defensively, that was the difference in the game to me. The Raiders up front, they just would not let him get going. And of course, Crosby had one of those career nights. He made tackle after tackle. He ran him down. He sacked him, harassed him. He did everything. I thought, that defensive front was pretty ridiculous in that game last night. I thought they were really good.
Yeah, Max Crosby was all over the place. Villanueva, the tackle, he was struggling. He couldn't block him. And
no.
Mike, what do you do in a situation like that?
Unfortunately, I've had that situation too many times. When I was on some bad teams after the Rams, and you had some tackles there. We always use the tight end in there, or chip there. There's all kinds of different ways of dealing with that, but you can turn the protection to it and get help from the guard. You can chip with the back. You can put a tight end in there. You can release and tell the tight end to chip in, bump him on the way so you can get set. But Crosby, his body control for a guy that size was freakish. He went in there on that option and actually took both the pitch and the quarterback away. I don't know how he did it. He started on the pitch and turned around and recovered on the quarterback and caused him to fumble the ball. I mean, it was a freak play. He's just unusual. Just really is unusual. And I think he's going to give anybody right now, the way he's playing, even if you're a really good tackle in this league, it's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah. All right, Mike, let's look ahead here to the upcoming games for week 2 of the NFL season. Let's start with Thursday night. That will be the New York Giants coming off a loss, taking on the Washington football team. That's in Washington.
Well, both teams have got a bad situation at quarterback right now. Heineke now as a backup is starting, and he did well in the last game when he had to come in and play 3 quarters. He did a good job. But Daniel Jones is still struggling. At some point, you got to decide what you want to do at quarterback, that position. I was really disappointed in how he played last week, and was probably, of all the quarterbacks of 32 teams last week, I thought he played the worst of all of them, and that's including the rookies. So I think it's going to be a very, very low-scoring game, a game of defense, and And I think the Giants will rush the football, or attempt to anyway, against a really good Washington defense. So they got to make something happen here with Daniel Jones. He's got to get going here pretty quick and do something, because right now he is really kind of an anchor for that team.
What is it? What's the problem with him?
I don't know what it is. I just watch him play. He just won't turn the ball loose. He's just not a quick read and release kind of a guy. He's athletic. He can take off and go with it. And maybe he's not comfortable with what's going on outside personnel wise. I don't know, but they had him, Jason had brought him along last year, and I thought he started to really improve, but he did not play well in the opener at all.
Yeah, that's Jason Garrett, the OC there, working with the quarterbacks, right? Yeah. And for Ron Rivera now, they don't want to drop 2 in a row at home, and the second one being a division game against a key division rival like the New York Giants. So
I know they like Heineke. I think they think he's a good player, and they're just trying to get him to come along a little bit. So this is his time now. So he did well in that game. He didn't hurt him. He didn't make any bad plays. He looked like he was comfortable. We'll see. I think Washington wins this game. I really do.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick with a hip injury. Freak kind of deal for a quarterback to get like that.
And I will tell him, 15 years from now, they'll be replacing that thing, buddy. So you might want to think about that.
Yeah, get a Post-it and put it on your windshield there.
Yeah, think about that retirement, right?
Yeah. All right, looking down the row here, the Patriots coming off a loss here. Now they're going to go to the Jets. Never an easy matchup going into New York.
No, but you know how Bill is. Everything, they're going to rush the ball. Things are going to be even. The quarterback Jones is not going. He did a good job in his opener. He's not going to screw it up. They won't turn the ball over. They won't hurt themselves. But the thing that's coming along really well is defensively, the Jets are not the Jets of the old. Coach Saleh up there has got them going on defense, and they look solid. They look like they've got some personnel issues still, but they'll be very competitive. And in years past, it's not been that way.
That's right. Belichick will be good against young quarterbacks like he always is. But that Jet defensive line, especially the 2 tackles in there, they're underrated, and they've done a pretty good job. And this is a team that came out and beat the Rams last year and surprised a lot of people. So don't sleep on them. Denver
and the rookies playing really well.
And the rookie, that's right.
He's doing a real good job.
Solid. So he's solid. So
here you got 2 rookie quarterbacks here playing each other. So and I think both Belichick and Saleh will do a really good job. It's going to be a low-scoring game, probably one of those 17-10 games, but we'll see.
2 defensive head coaches there.
Yes,
definitely. Yeah. All right. So the Broncos coming off of a win, going down to Jacksonville, who's coming off of a loss. And that's one game, Mike, where you got to make sure you don't go down there and fall asleep, right? New head coach, rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no question. But, the rookie quarterback is good enough that if he catches fire and they protect him and he figures it out, anything can happen. But they look like a real solid team. I'm talking about Denver now, all, in their win. So obviously I think Broncos win this one, but I'm going to be really interested to see how they respond, particularly on offense down there in Jacksonville.
Buffalo now has got to go down to Miami, and this is the division rival here. This is the Bills and the Dolphins. I played in a couple of these now. This one will feel like a playoff game.
It may, but I just think the Bills have got too much for Miami. Miami has that nice win and all that, but they weren't very productive at all in offense. Tua was okay. He didn't have a great game, but I just think that the Bills have got too much coming off that loss. It means too much of them. To them, this one, I think they'll get after Miami pretty good. I really do.
49ers will head back to Philly. That's a long trip, and take on the Eagles. The Rams going back to Indy. Now, this will be interesting. I think Indy will play better second time around. The Rams weren't great on the road last year. I know they had a loss against Buffalo on the road early. So this will be interesting.
Well, we're going to find out real quick if they learned anything from Russell Wilson's performance last week. Well, because the Rams will take that ball and put it down the field in the first half at least twice or 3 times, and they'll check him out. They're going to find out whether or not that they can defend the deep ball, just like they did here the other night. So I think the Rams will come back there and own that game pretty good. I think Wentz is playing well, but it's still going to be 4 to 6 weeks before they get used to each other offensively.
Yeah, and Wentz is coming off of that injury too. Broke his foot in training camp, and that's still there. And I don't think that he's 100% recovered on that.
He's playing well though, Ron. He looked good in
Yeah.
the game. They've defensively they've got problems. They're going to have to do something about shutting down that deep ball, because once you get beat like that on those deep balls, you're going to see them every week until you prove you can stop them.
That's true. The Raiders off of a big win. Now, here's where Raiders classically have struggled. A huge emotional win at home, and now it's time to go back to what has been a legendary rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Raiders traditionally, going back east, have not been very good, as you know. And the Steelers, I'll tell you what, defensively, that's a team you don't want to line up against right now. They were really impressive on defense. I thought, they did a great job. I think offensively, they're still not what they need to be, but we'll see.
Yeah, Bengals take on the Bears in Chicago. The Texans going to Cleveland. If I'm the Texans, I'm going to ball my fist up and get ready for a fight, because Cleveland has to be fired up after that loss. And in the game, they played pretty solid there in Kansas City.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, they were really impressive. I'm talking about the Texans were really, really impressive in that game. They just can't let Taylor get going as a quarterback, because he got hot in that game and made some really good throws, but he was not contested either. You got to bottle him up and make him throw off balance and whatnot, and then I think the Browns will handle him. The Browns are too good right now to let something like that happen, I think.
So the Saints will go to Carolina. Let's see if they can take that emotion from the big win against Green Bay up there. Minnesota coming out west to take on the Cardinals. And Mike, I don't know. Well, I don't have a good feel for this one on the Minnesota side, but weird things happen, and good teams play well in situations where they got to come back and get a win. Like
here's why I see the Cardinals have got so much speed on both sides of the ball. The one thing that they did last year, they're a top 5 team in rushing at the end of the year, and people don't realize Murray gets hot, runs around, makes these throws and these great runs and whatnot. But the one thing that they're doing so well is they're playing great defense and they're rushing the football. I think they're just too much for Minnesota right now. I just think it's a mismatch in terms of scheme and speed.
Mm-hmm. Atlanta going down to Tampa Bay, boy, it shouldn't be a problem for the Buccaneers. I haven't seen anything from Atlanta. No. And it's like you said last week, Atlanta is a team going in the opposite direction.
Wrong direction.
The other 31 teams are going with an aging quarterback.
The one guy that could make some plays for them isn't there anymore, and it's just it's going to be a long season down in Atlanta. Get ready for baseball.
For baseball. Tennessee going up to Seattle, so let's that could be interesting. The Cowboys taking on the Chargers here in LA. That's going to be a fun one to watch.
That'll be a shootout. Two really good quarterbacks going at it. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. The Cowboys are not going to slow Herbert down. He's going to throw the ball and throw it well. And I think to win this thing, keep Herbert off the field, and you got Ezekiel Elliott at some point in this 10 years has got to show up and do something. My gosh, he has. Okay. When did he have a 100-yard game, right? And I know the quarterback's thrown for 400 yards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I just would like to see them get him going a little bit too. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you said that, Mike. So now I'm not the only one thinking, what is missing with Zeke? I'm watching and I'm thinking, when is this guy going to be what he was supposed to be and what he was at Ohio State?
Well, Ron, with a guy like that, as all great backs, you got to let him get going a little bit.
Yeah.
And most of their concentration down there in preparation is throwing football. And it's kind of an, oh, by the way, in the running game. That's my opinion. And they've got to go into each week with ways of getting him going in the running game, not worry about that. But when you get a good passer like Herbert, he can get hot like he's done and make it a nightmare. It'll be just like they did last week, who has the ball last kind of a deal. You don't want to do that. But what makes it hard on a team is when you can run the ball so effectively and then have a great passing game like they have. And that's what's missing for them right now. They lean on that passing game almost too much.
Well, right, Mike. At what point will they say, okay, hey, look, we have this horse here. Let's ride this horse. I mean, they did it back in the 90s with Emmitt Smith and that offensive line, and it opened up everything else. So something. There's a difference in philosophy somewhere in the building. And
I'm not. They're still kind of independent contractors. Defensively, they don't complement each other. You know what I mean? It's just, and defensively, they're outmatched a little bit up front, and they haven't been that way for a long time. And the secondary is they're better. At least they don't do those bonehead things and just turn guys loose. But I think the Chargers got a great chance of winning this game, and I've been in the Cowboys camp all the way. I keep waiting for them to show up because I think they've got good players, and I love Dak Prescott. I think he's a terrific player and a terrific man. But Herbert is my new Superman. So,
he's the new Superman. This will be a fun game to watch. I like both these. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Kansas City will take on the Ravens in Baltimore. Baltimore will be smarting a little bit after that debacle on Monday night. This is one they could win though, in spite of the injuries. But Lamar Jackson's got to play a lot smarter.
Well, the other thing about this, Kansas City still has not proven they can stop the run. If they could, and again, here you got Baltimore, who does not have necessarily a decent running game right now. So it's kind of, it looks like it's all stacked against Baltimore. If they could get something, take the heat off of Lamar and him having to make a play all the time, if they could get going the running game, I don't know if they can. I just think it'll be lopsided.
Not having the big injuries there for Baltimore, that's definitely hurt. So Monday night, I don't want to say the cherry on top, the coup d'etat, but it's the Lions and the Packers. You call it what you want.
Well, it'd be fun to see the Lions compete because that's something that organization has never really done very hard, and Danny, I'm so proud of him. He's done such a great job, and I like to watch guys compete. I don't like to watch guys play, if that makes sense. And for the first time in a long time, you watch those guys get excited about onside kick and going down and being in a position to win it, and then the other thing is, who are the Packers? Who are they really, and we're going to find out, which will be good.
Yep. Well, let's run this again before we get out of here, Mike. Your top 5 quarterbacks this season. You've already listed some that I think might supplant some people that were previously in your list, but there's a good round of guys out there.
It's hard. You got to start with Brady and of course Dak Prescott and Josh. Of course, I think he's good. Herbert, Russell Wilson. So
there you go.
But there's just too many good ones. It's what would be better? Who are your top 10? Really? We were just talking about this earlier. There's only 2 organizations right now that don't have quarterbacks where you think you can win. And that's the Giants and Atlanta. And everybody else has got either a rookie quarterback that looks like they've got a real good future, right? Or a second-year player that in their sophomore year has got great starts, for instance, in Cincinnati. Or you got all these veterans that are really playing well. So, that can change throughout the whole course. Russell could fall off the map like he did last year. Because there's not a whole lot of help up there, right? And then you got the guy that I didn't mention was Rodgers. I don't know, maybe next week now he decides that he's going to be Rodgers of old, So to say who the top 5 guys are, it's going to be really hard. Or maybe I know who I like. I know who I like, Yeah. I think Dak is really a good player, and Herbert, and I think Russell Wilson's a special player, of course, and Mahomes. I left him off there, so
but like you say, Mike, it's more than 5.
Yeah,
and
there is.
That's
there
fair,
really is.
Right? That's fair. That's what the league wants. They've wanted that for a long time. It's a quarterback show league, and that means the ball's going to be in the air, and it's going to be entertaining and fun to watch, kind of like the Monday night game.
More than ever before, I think, Ron. More than ever before. And there you go, Carr. I think Carr is a terrific talent in a system that doesn't necessarily fit him.
Yeah, you've said that for a while, and last night I think you could see that. You've seen it in the past, but you could.
He made some throws last night that were ridiculous, and they were just storming the gates on him. And I think he's really a good player.
Yeah. And then every now and then he'll miss some. He threw some behind last night.
He started out very poorly, and then he got going.
Yeah. So, all right, Mike, we will talk next week, man. Week 2 in the NFL coming your way, buddy. We'll run it again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ron.
All right. Take care.